What if you can play an RPG and a rhythm game at the same time? But that's what Metronomicon sets out to do. Two of my favorite game genres are finally being combined, and it works surprisingly well. The RPG aspects are intriguing, but simple enough for you to focus on the rhythm part of the game. I'm getting a tad bit ahead of myself though, so let's boot up the game and see what it has to offer. The world is being ravaged by monsters that have been using the power of music to conquer the land. Luckily, the humans managed to find the Metronomicon, which lets them harness the power of music for themselves and take down these horrific dancing monsters. We find our party, in the literal sense this time I suppose, graduating from the Neon Shield, a school that teaches in the way of the dancing arts. After being given the Metronomicon, we go on our first mission. Though, to take down these party animals, we should probably learn how to dance. Lethally. So, let's touch on the gameplay. You can switch between characters using the shift keys. When a character is selected, then you can play the song to choose their ability. If you play the song until you see the shiny note, then stop by either missing a note or by switching characters, then you'll use your first ability. If you keep playing until you hit the next shiny note, then you'll use your second ability. And if you hit the third shiny note, then you'll use your third ability. The more notes you play before using the skill, the more powerful / effective the skill will be. So using the skills that are further down your skill list is still very much worth it. Skills aren't locked to certain slots either. You can put a skill that you commonly use in the first slot so you can cast it quickly. This may be useful for heals so you can heal quickly in emergencies and not spend a ton of time on healing when you're just topping yourself off. However, if you do that, then your heal won't do as much. If you want a large heal, then you'll want to put it in the third slot, but it's going to take much longer to cast, and if you miss a note, then you could easily cast the wrong spell. So choosing where you want to put your abilities is a large part of building your characters. Even if I kind of just use the default spell placement for the most part. Whatever, it's a cool system, okay? While doing all this mid-battle is kind of daunting at first, after doing a few songs then it quickly becomes second nature. I just really wanted to applaud the game's creativity in the battle system. It makes the RPG aspects so fluid and easy to do that you can still effectively focus on the rhythm part, but not so simple as to make it easy. There is still strategizing mid-battle, and some battles can be really difficult. The one thing I don't like is a special move you can use. You unlock a few special moves throughout the game, they charge up over time, and you can use them whenever you feel like it. What I hate about these moves is that you're meant to charge them throughout multiple songs. This could work for an endless mode, sure, but for everything else, it should really just be per battle. The way they have it set up right now encourages player hoarding where they save it for a boss battle or something. Or since it's not used a lot, they forget the feature exists entirely. The game doesn't slack on the character building aspect of RPGs either. While it isn't super complex with skill trees and such, it still does a well enough job. You have equipment that increases one of your stats and or has a special effect. Most of those are pretty self-explanatory. Where the character building shines through though is with the skills and their placement, which I already covered, so you get the idea there. One more thing I want to say about skills is that there are extra passive skills in post-game for each character. While I personally didn't have the time to play with them, I thought it was a really nice post-game reward. The character building aspect is simple enough where it's pretty easy to build a viable team, but it's also engaging enough to be interesting, which I think is really the overall theme for the RPG side of this game. Simple, but not too simple. One major problem I do have with the game is the unlockable characters. I won't show any of them right now as to avoid spoilers, so don't worry about that. The characters, with an exception or two, just kind of suck. Their starting abilities aren't generally too grand, and the abilities they later unlock aren't too great either. The only time you're generally going to want to use them is during some challenges, and when it's required in the arena sometimes. But for the most part, they're not useful. I also didn't like their place in the story, but I'll touch on that later. The rhythm game aspect is also there. Hitting notes feels good, and every time I missed a note, it felt like my fault. For the most part, I don't have much to say about this half of the game. It's solid gameplay with solid music. However, I do have a problem with the difficulty. Before a song, you can choose easy, normal, or hard. This affects how hard the song is, not how hard the enemies are. The change in difficulty between normal and hard is generally pretty reasonable, but the jump between easy and normal is massive. Like, utterly ridiculous. I've played some rhythm games before, and while I'm not amazing at them, I do consider myself pretty decent at them. So after I got the general feel of the game down, easy was too easy for me, so naturally I went to medium, and I got absolutely destroyed. I wish there was a difficulty between easy and normal because easy is too easy and normal is too hard for the most part. To be fair though, I do like to beat these games within a reasonable amount of time, so if I had given myself more time, then perhaps I could have beaten the entire game on normal mode. But even if it was more of a time problem on my side than a difficulty problem on their side, then normal mode is still a tad bit too much of a jump. There's also local multiplayer. Of course, there's a certain event happening in the world that prevents me from getting together with people. So instead I'm going to use Parsec, which is a thing that lets you play local multiplayer games over the internet. I'm sure that using this on a rhythm game will go flawlessly. Right, Jordan, aka Panda Force Gaming? I was supposed to have a joke here where I get a clip of Jordan lagging, but the footage decided not to record the game itself and decided not to record Jordan's audio. So just trust me, I played it. The multiplayer was exactly what you'd expect. Two people can switch between characters and use their skills. I can't really give proper feedback because the lag on Parsec made it almost impossible for Jordan to play effectively, but it was fun to play with him, and I'm sure it would be a blast to play with someone in person, without lag. Now onto presentation. I don't like the graphics. I think the art style just doesn't work with the Dragon Bones animation. Most of the characters just look wrong. Speaking of characters, they're supposed to be dancing the enemies to death, yet some of them aren't even dancing. They're just doing normal idle animations, but to the beat of a song. It's a minor detail, but that honestly bothered me a bit. Luckily, the monsters look great. It's okay for them to look a little bit off-putting. It's just the humans that look a bit iffy. There are these visual novel style cutscenes here that play out. The stills they use are passable, but they don't look great. They use voice acting here too. I've never been too much of a stickler for voice acting, but these characters just don't sound right sometimes.
The saving the day, the adventures, the food.
Wade?
But it was tolerable, and it wasn't the worst thing I've heard or anything. And if it really bothers you, you can turn off voice acting in the settings. But of course, the one thing that stands above all of that in this game would be music. The music was a driving force throughout the entire game for me. I just wanted to get through the game so I can hear the new songs, and it rarely disappointed. It doesn't matter what music you like, you'll find something here that you enjoy. My personal favorites are Midnight by Rosie and Live It Up by Shiny Toy Guns. One moment, I'm getting a call. Yeah, okay. I have just been informed that no one cares what my preferences are. I'm going to be getting into the story and the unlockable characters. Go to this time on screen if you don't want any of that spoiled. Though honestly, it doesn't really matter all that much in this case. So our heroes go from rave to rave for most of the game, and the end of every chapter you recruit a new party member, who pretty much always sucks, but that's besides the point. The only significant character you unlock, however, is Sarah, the scientist. The rest of them only appear in one or two cutscenes, and I really wish it just stayed focused on the main four characters, which are all lovable and fun to watch. Except for Gwen, who is kinda generic and I forgot existed half the time. But hey, she's pretty useful in battle. I honestly think the game, both gameplay-wise and story-wise, would have been better without these extra characters. Anyway, eventually after getting however many useless characters, one of the monsters steals the Metronomicon, which is apparently really bad, but why did we have the Metronomicon in the first place? We aren't the only dancers in the world or anything, but it's implied that there's only one Metronomicon. It doesn't make sense that we had it and not either leave it back at the school or give it to a more experienced team, but whatever. They use the book to absorb all the planet's dance energy and cause a dance apocalypse. I don't think they ever actually say dance apocalypse, but that just sounds right, so I'm leaving it in the script. So, our heroes use a teleportation device, we found a teleportation device earlier by the way, to teleport to the moon! To take out an alien that's about to destroy the world. Okay then. So ignoring the fact that we can somehow breathe on the moon, we chase after the alien through hordes of monsters. Once we finally catch up with the alien, we have an extremely anticlimactic battle. There is no phase 2, and the battle isn't interesting or anything. If anything, I'd say it's probably one of, if not the easiest boss battle in the game. With such a funny and flashy game, I expected the final boss to be utterly crazy. Not even necessarily hard. But no, the boss is really boring and just a big old disappointment. So, what do I think of Metronomicon? Well, I think the game is amazing. If you enjoy RPGs and rhythm games, then it's a must play. And if you're trying to get into rhythm games or RPGs, then it's still a great choice. The game is only $20 on Steam, and I genuinely say it's worth it. Even with all the issues that this game has, I can say with complete certainty that Midnight by Rosie is the best song in the game. I will fight you on this.